I'm a 44-year-old guy, and my wife, Rachel, is 39. We've been married for over 15 years. We stopped at 4 kids, or so we thought. Turns out we've got a surprise baby due in December. It's a big deal, especially since Rachel hasn't been pregnant in over 5 years. She's thrilled, but it started becoming a problem, mostly because she keeps bringing it up at the worst times. Like, there was this awful hit and run in our town recently. At the candlelight vigil, in the middle of all that grief, Rachel said, "I'm just so thankful our baby's okay. I couldn't live with myself if this vigil was for one of our kids, or the baby." People around us gave us dirty looks. Some even scoffed. I love my wife, but come on, there's a time and place, and that sure as hell wasn't it. That family was mourning their child, not looking for pregnancy updates. But that's not even what this post is really about. My brother married a woman named Samira. She moved here from Iran about 8 years ago. She's wonderful, and we're lucky to have her in the family. If you've been following the protests over there, you probably already see where this is going. Samira's been falling apart. She can't get in touch with some of her family, who've been involved in the protests. After hearing about Masa Amini's death, she started spiraling. She stopped eating, avoided showers, barely spoke. She even cut off all her hair in solidarity. But what she really needs is peace of mind, just to know her family's alive and safe. Rachel and I tried to help. We brought over food, set up a spa day for the women in the family. But when we were sitting down to eat, Samira suddenly started crying quietly. And instead of comforting her, Rachel leaned in and said, "I know exactly how you feel. This pregnancy's been really hard. I can't eat either, and I cry all the time, worried something might happen because of my age. But we'll get through it together. Come on, let's go fix that hair." She even smiled when she said it. Samira just cried harder. I apologized on the spot, walked Rachel out to the car, and got in, absolutely fuming. When she saw how pissed I was, she asked what was wrong. I told her flat out, "Stop making everything about you and this pregnancy. Samira is having nightmares because her family might be killed for protesting. And you seriously think comparing that to morning sickness and a bad haircut is helpful?" Rachel defended herself, said she was just trying to make Samira feel better. But seriously, how does talking about her hair and bringing up her pregnancy help? There's a line, and she crossed it. She still insists she didn't do anything wrong, but honestly, there's a time and place for everything. Now she's at her parents' place, and I'm getting calls from my in-laws, accusing me of not caring about Rachel's pregnancy. Am I the bad guy here? Because to me, this whole thing feels delusional. Like this pregnancy has knocked her sense of empathy right out of her. I get that pregnancy is hard, but ignoring what someone else is going through, something so real and painful, is selfish as hell. Sometimes I wonder if she keeps talking about the baby because she's feeling insecure. Or maybe she feels guilty. And now comes the part one didn't want to believe. We've been married almost 20 years. 4 kids, and another one on the way. And just recently, I found out Rachel's been cheating on me. What's worse is, our 14-year-old daughter was the one who figured it out. It's only been a couple of days since I saw the evidence. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but from everything I've gathered, the affair's been going on for over 4 years. I haven't said anything to Rachel yet. I'm thinking about confronting her after the baby's born, maybe. Even though it might not even be my baby. I still love her. And I don't want to do something I can't take back. I know I should be getting legal advice, separating finances, gathering more proof. And I will. But there's still a part of me that's holding on, trying not to let all this turn into pure hatred. I don't want to poison myself like that, especially with the kids caught in the middle. I've even considered DNA tests for the girls, our 14-year-old, our 10-year-old, and our 5-year-old twins. But what if it backfires and ends up hurting them even more? Just writing this out is making my head pound. I've been calling out of work lately because I just can't think straight. I really need to clear my head. Update: the DNA results are back. The twins, and the baby Rachel's carrying, aren't mine. We had the talk. I asked her straight up, and she admitted it. She said she's sorry, but she doesn't regret it. She said she loves the other guy. And here's the kicker: her parents knew the whole time. They actually let her and her affair partner meet at their house to keep things under wraps, just to avoid the shame. They were so worried about embarrassment, they actively helped her keep it hidden. They didn't want to separate the twins from their real dad. Unreal. Her whole family's super involved in the church, by the way. Or they were. Right now, our two oldest daughters, 14 and 10, are staying with my brother and sister-in-law. I just can't take care of them right now, emotionally or otherwise. They're both furious with their mom. They won't talk to her, and have started therapy. I wanted the twins to stay with them too, just to keep the sisters together, but Rachel fought me on it. I'm positive the other guy's with her now. I even saw his car parked outside my in-laws' place. He's married too. I've been talking with his wife. She's filing for divorce. I haven't asked if they're trying to work through it, and honestly, I couldn't care less. To hell with him, with Rachel, and with her awful family. Funny thing is, I used to think her parents were just a bit uptight. Now, I'm thrilled they're being shunned. Kicked out of their church, removed from its social media pages. They're finally facing the one thing they were so afraid of: public humiliation. My mother-in-law even called me sobbing, begging me to clear things up. Clear what up? Her husband asked me to try and fix things with Rachel. I asked him, would you? He didn't say a word, just hung up. Rachel's been trying to reach out. Non-stop texts and calls. I'm ignoring every single one. Watching her scramble to talk to me honestly brings a sliver of satisfaction. I don't even know what she wants, and I don't care. I'm not ready to hear her voice. Not yet. Before the DNA results, I was preparing to take her to court for full custody of the twins. Now I just feel hollow. Useless. Work's a mess. My coworkers look at me with pity. I don't even go grocery shopping anymore. I can feel people staring, whispering. I've dropped 15 pounds since all this started. I sleep maybe 2 hours a night. Therapy hasn't done much. This has been the worst year of my life. Sometimes I wish I'd kept my mouth shut that day in the car. If I had, maybe I'd still be holding our newborn right now. Decorating the house. Laughing with Rachel. Instead, the house is dead quiet. It should be filled with noise, my daughters laughing, arguing, playing. I should be up late changing diapers, listening to Rachel belt Mariah Carey while making dinner. The house should smell like cinnamon, or cookies or baby powder. But it's just cold. Quiet. Empty. Everything I built, every ounce of love and effort I poured into this life, feels like it was for nothing. I spent so much time trying to build a happy adulthood because my childhood was anything but. But maybe some people are just meant to lose. Right now, I don't feel like a husband. I don't feel like a dad. I don't even feel like a person. I called his bluff and told him what he was doing could count as making a malicious call, a crime, technically. He backed off after that. Still an annoying piece of work, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, I just want to say, I appreciate all the support. I hope everyone out there finds peace and success. Really. Good night from Texas. Here's some backstory. My girlfriend, Hannah, and I both grew up in a mid-sized town with about 20,000 people. We even went to the same high school, though we never actually met back then. Years later, after college, we started talking and things got serious pretty quickly. After graduation, I landed a job that had me traveling across the state. I asked for a workstation at our hometown branch since there were no reps there, and they gave it to me. I eventually fell into a routine, spending 1 to 2 weeks at our city office, 1 week back home, and sometimes traveling out of state for a week or 2 at a time. About a year in, I decided to buy a house back in my hometown. Then one Friday, right after returning from a trip, I was at my office going over paperwork when Craig, our managing director and someone I'd known since we were kids, dropped by with another colleague. Craig and I had always been tight, even though we'd gone to different high schools. He asked how things were and invited me to a party he and some buddies were throwing that night. I said sure. I figured a few drinks with friends wouldn't hurt. That night, Craig introduced me to Hannah. She was a new hire at the hometown branch. We hit it off right away. Found out we went to the same high school, laughed about it, and started seeing each other regularly. Hannah got along great with my parents, and her folks were just relieved she'd found someone who made her happy, especially after all she'd gone through with past relationships and depression. After 2 years of dating, she moved into my house. Things were good. At least for a while. Then things started to shift. Our FaceTime calls got shorter. She claimed she was too busy to talk. And then the neighbors started mentioning a certain car. A black Chevy Camaro, parked in the alley behind our house whenever I was away. One neighbor said it looked a lot like Craig's. I started finding clothes in the laundry that weren't mine. Everything inside me told me she was cheating. But when I brought it up, she insisted I was overthinking things. Said Craig only dropped by occasionally to talk business, never stayed long. I felt stupid for doubting her, so I let it go. But deep down, something felt off. Fast forward about 6 months. I finished up a huge contract and decided to fly home early. I figured I'd surprise Hannah and spend a relaxing weekend together. That drive into town felt like a fresh start, until I turned down the alley behind our house. There it was. Craig's black Camaro. Parked right at the back gate. I might have driven past it if it hadn't been for the tall privacy hedge I planted years ago. I pulled over, got out, and stared. What the hell was Craig doing at my place this late? I crept up to the house, staying hidden by the hedge. And there they were. In the kitchen. Hannah and Craig. All over each other. My best friend and my girlfriend, on my kitchen table, in my house. I just stood there, frozen. It was like my body didn't know how to move. My mind couldn't catch up. And then I turned and walked away. Quietly. They never saw me. I drove for what felt like hours. I cried. But somewhere along the drive, the sadness turned into white-hot anger. I didn't want to hurt them physically, I'm not that guy. But I sure as hell wasn't going to let them get away with it. So I made a plan. I turned the car around, parked a little farther up the alley, out of sight but close enough to see Craig's Camaro. Then I walked back to my gate and peeked through, just enough to see inside. And I called her phone. The second it rang, they both looked at the screen. It was my name. I watched her hesitate. She let it ring, then ignored it. A moment later, they picked up right where they left off. So I called again. This time, she answered. I hung up and walked back to my car. A few minutes later, Hannah called me, asking why I was calling so late. I told her I was about 15 minutes from home and didn't want to startle her by just showing up. She sounded surprised, but happy. She said she'd get up to change, and we ended the call shortly after. Not even 5 minutes later, I watched Craig scramble out of my backyard gate, half-dressed, jump into his car, and tear off down the alley. I actually laughed a little. They must have been terrified. The panic of almost getting caught like that serves them right. I waited a little while longer before pulling into the same spot Craig had just vacated. The rest of the night was quiet. After Hannah fell asleep, I got up and slipped into my office down the hall. Sleep wasn't even an option, I needed to think. And yeah, I started planning my revenge. My mom raised me to believe in peace and karma. Let the universe sort things out, she used to say. But that night, I decided karma needed a little push. I wasn't going to lash out physically. That's not who I am. But I was going to make sure both of them, Craig and Hannah, paid for what they did. Separately. Thoroughly. I already knew Craig had a bit of a drug problem. Nothing huge, but it was there, hidden well. I only found out because I accidentally walked in on him snorting coke in his office once. I pretended I didn't see anything. Just walked right out. A few weeks later, I had some friends over, including Craig, for drinks. I made sure he got good and drunk, then offered to let him crash on my couch. After he passed out cold, I grabbed his office keys, drove over to the branch office, and got to work. He was out cold. I knew he wouldn't wake up. I went straight to his desk and searched everything, especially the drawer where I'd seen him stash stuff before. That's when I found it, a false bottom. Lifted it up, and jackpot. Way more than I expected. Not just coke, there were other substances, too. I snapped photos of everything, put it all back exactly how I found it, and before leaving, I installed a tiny button spy camera above his office door. Got it online a few weeks earlier, just in case. From the stash I saw, it was obvious Craig was using pretty frequently, at least twice a day, probably more. As for Hannah, I remembered that I had once suggested installing security cameras at home for peace of mind. She shot the idea down fast. Said she didn't want anyone hacking into them and watching us. At the time, I thought it was just paranoia. Now I knew it was about privacy for a different reason. So here's what I did. I faked a break-in. Before flying back to the city, I smashed the glass pane in the back kitchen door and left it wide open. Later that day, my phone blew up. My mom was panicked. She found the door and called the cops. Hannah was sobbing on voicemail. The local police left a message asking me to call them. I returned the calls, explained to the police I was out of town on business, and would follow up the next week. Meanwhile, I had Hannah stay with my parents while I was gone. Told my dad to get a security company to come out and install cameras and an alarm system. The cops approved it since the house was technically a crime scene. When I got home, I acted stunned, asked all the right questions like, "Why would someone target our house?" Hannah was freaked out. So when the security company came, we both got the walkthrough. They showed us how to use everything, how the alarms worked, how to manage camera settings. Then she asked the question I was waiting for. "What if we're intimate, and I don't want it recorded?" She blushed a little, played it off like she was just being modest. But I knew why she was really asking. The installer smiled, said it was common, and showed us how to pause recording on certain cameras using the home computer. I asked whether disabling a camera would trigger any alerts, and he walked us through setting up email notifications. Perfect. After Hannah went grocery shopping the next day, I installed the button cams I'd been holding onto. Put them in all the right places. Hidden in plain sight. Now all I had to do was wait. Meanwhile, I started reaching out on Reddit, specifically to legal advice forums in my country. I wanted to be sure I could pull off my plan without getting stuck financially. I didn't want Hannah to have a leg to stand on if she tried to come after my money. Shout out to the guy who connected me with a fantastic lawyer. He reviewed everything and confirmed we weren't together long enough to be considered a de facto couple. I'd been paying all the bills, she wasn't contributing rent or utilities. Legally, she had no claim. He even drafted an airtight legal agreement just to cover all bases. And then came even better news. My boss offered me a promotion, team leader in the city office. Because of the success I'd built in our hometown branch, they were planning to send 5 to 7 reps out to rotate through smaller towns nearby, including my own, as part of my team. No more constant travel. No more long trips. Just stability. And the perfect stage for what I was about to pull off. I accepted the promotion and started the transfer process. It was going to take about 6 weeks to go through. That was perfect. More than enough time to gather every last piece of evidence I needed. When I got back to my hometown the following week, I put the rest of my plan into motion. First, I went straight to Craig and asked him for a favor. I told him I wanted to surprise Hannah with a 1-week vacation, something relaxing. A tropical spa getaway for her and maybe a couple of friends. Told him I'd need him to approve the time off for her. He agreed immediately. Even congratulated me on taking the leap again. Said he'd mark her week off the calendar. I asked him to keep it under wraps, make it a surprise. I knew how fast word traveled around the office. That was exactly what I wanted. That night, I told Hannah the good news. I'd booked her and 2 of her friends a fully paid trip to a luxury resort. Spa treatments, sun, drinks, the whole deal. I told her she had to pick 2 friends and get ready for the biggest surprise of her life when she got back. She was over the moon. I added that, unfortunately, I'd be in the city next week prepping for a huge client pitch and wouldn't be home when she left. She looked a little disappointed, but I reassured her that it'd be worth it when she returned. What I didn't tell her: I was taking a 2-week vacation to the opposite end of the country. I needed time away, time to mentally prepare for what was coming. And honestly, to enjoy a bit of peace and clarity, my first in months. 2 weeks later, on a Sunday, I flew back and drove straight home. On my way, I made a little detour, past the house. Sure enough, Craig's car was parked out back. Just like the first time. I didn't go inside. Instead, I parked a few blocks away, checked the live feed from the security cams, but the house looked quiet. Then I pulled up the spy cam feed, including the one in the lamp by the bed. There they were. Right in my bedroom. Going at it again. I had almost 2 full weeks of footage of them doing this while I was away. They must have thought the bedroom was safe since the regular security cams didn't reach in there. They had no idea I'd been recording everything. That's when I made my move. I grabbed a burner phone and called the police. Masked my caller ID. I told them I was a neighbor, concerned about a man sitting in a car in the alley behind my house. Said he looked suspicious, kept handing off small packages to people walking by. Sounded like drug dealing to me, I said. I gave them the make, model, and license plate of Craig's Camaro. They said they'd send someone out right away. Next, I used a brand new email address to send the spy cam footage of Craig using drugs in his office, along with the photos of what I found in his desk, to his boss. No name, just a tip from a concerned party. Then I texted Hannah. Just landed. About 10 minutes from home. Can't wait to see you. And I watched the chaos unfold. Craig ran out the back, shirt halfway on, shoes untied, hair a mess. He jumped in his Camaro and gunned it down the alley, just as a squad car pulled in behind him and flipped on the lights. I was stunned watching it play out. It was perfect. Poetic. When I finally walked through the front door, Hannah was buzzing with excitement. We had the usual, missed you, routine, acted like a normal couple. Eventually, she fell asleep. I didn't sleep a wink. The next morning, she and her friends got picked up and taken to the airport for their big spa trip. Once they were gone, I got ready for the final phase. I gave it a few hours before setting the final part of my plan into motion. First, I called a buddy of mine who works as a removalist. Apologized for the last-minute ask, and scheduled a full pack-and move for Friday. We agreed on the details, and I told him exactly which boxes were to go into storage. He had no problem with it. Then I started packing up Hannah's stuff. Later that day, the police called. They asked if I knew someone named Craig and whether I had any reason to believe he was involved in suspicious activity or drug use. Given how strict our town is when it comes to drug laws, I acted shocked. Said I had no idea, played dumb. Turns out they had arrested Craig the night before, with a pretty substantial amount of illegal drugs in his car. I couldn't help but smile. The trap had been set perfectly, and it worked. By the next day, the whole town was buzzing. Nothing stays quiet for long around here. Craig was disgraced, fired on the spot for drug possession. The fallout was immediate and brutal. That evening, I stopped by my parents' place. Told them, and Hannah's parents, the basics of what had happened. I left out a lot of details, just said I'd accepted a promotion and was moving back to the city. Hannah wouldn't be coming with me. They were a little upset that I'd kept them in the dark, but in the end, they respected how I handled things. No yelling, no drama. Just clean, quiet resolution. They didn't love that I was ghosting Hannah, but they also knew I had my reasons. After a few drinks, some laughs, and a few emotional moments, I headed home. Friday afternoon, after a long, exhausting week, cleaners arranged for the house, the real estate agent prepped to list it for rent, final work wrap-ups at the hometown office. I packed the last of my things into my car. I said my goodbyes to my parents. But before I left town, I made one last stop. Catherine's house. Catherine was one of Hannah's childhood friends, and the only person I'd confided in. Without her help, I wouldn't have learned half the details about Craig. She was the reason I had the inside track. I handed her a large manila envelope. Inside was everything. All the video evidence of Hannah and Craig, a letter explaining what I'd done and why, and legal paperwork from my attorney instructing Hannah not to contact me. It also had details about how to access her things at the storage unit I'd rented. I thanked Catherine, gave her a hug, and hit the road. By Sunday morning, I woke up in my new apartment to a dozen missed calls, voicemails, and a flood of texts. Hannah had come back early. Apparently, word about Craig's arrest had reached her while she was still on her trip. She rushed home, only to find the house empty, everything gone, and a "for rent" sign planted on the front lawn. Panic set in. She went straight to my parents' house, but they wouldn't even open the door. That's when she started blowing up everyone's phone, eventually reaching Catherine, who told her she had a package waiting. Hannah didn't take it well. She lost it, furious texts, raging voicemails accusing me of framing Craig, calling me manipulative and cruel. But she never showed up at my door. I was half expecting it, but it never happened. Now, 6 weeks later, I'm fully moved into the city. The promotion's official. I'm leading a new team. My life is quiet, focused, and peaceful. And finally, I'm free.